But it's a really wonderful gathering, and everybody had told me for a long time that this was very special, and I feel really honored to be invited to speak with you guys and be here. And you know, gatherings like this, when I was young, they weren't happening. They weren't around like they are right now. And if I had known about something like this when I was young and growing up in West Virginia, I would have been front and center. I would have been sitting right there in the front row at every event. I would have been soaking everything up like a sponge. So it's really great to see so many of these kinds of gatherings just becoming more and more prominent regionally and nationally around the country. So we're here together to celebrate something that is fundamental. We're here to celebrate the songs and the singing and the tunes across miles and across years. Some songs written yesterday, some songs written hundreds of years ago, and to celebrate the whole of that. Sung in living rooms and concert halls and campfires and huge, huge audiences, tiny audiences, two people together in all the different forms that this music takes. And how this basic sharing of something that is a pure musical experience has been connecting us to each other since before we started recording time. My friend Jim Brock, who is a wonderful musician from Charlotte, played drums in my band for about 10 years, and he's very, very deep musically. And we used to get into these great discussions about music, and he would always trump me. He would always win. He'd say, well, you know, Kathy, the drum was the first instrument, so there you go. We've been making music since before we probably could talk. And so this music that we're here to celebrate, it's not about light shows, and it's not about choreography, and it's not about costumes. It's about words and music and melody and rhythm, and about being with each other as we experience what is essential about music. So here we affirm the importance of music in its simplest form. And we affirm the sacredness that is hidden in something very ordinary. A few years ago, I was telling somebody yesterday about this. I did a workshop with Bobby McFerrin, the great jazz singer, and 120 of us gathered together, and we stood in a circle, and they divided us into sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. And they would come around and give just an improvised part in the moment to each section. And we would keep singing as the next section came in and the next section came in. And then Bobby McFerrin would improvise over us. And then somebody else might take the mic, or somebody might change the bass part and then change the soprano part and then stop the tenors and then do a whole other section. And the thing would just keep morphing. And we would do this for 12 hours a day. We did this from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. He does it once a year at the Omega Institute if you're interested. And about day 3 or 4, you just find yourself standing there like singing and crying and singing and crying. And you're just like, I can't even believe this. And he looked up about day 4 or day 5. He said, yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? He said, singing together is just such an amazing thing. He said, I keep wondering, you know, what would happen if every time Congress met, for the first 30 minutes, they had to do this. I wonder how that would change the course of history. But it's true, you know, when I'm singing with you, I can't be in conflict with you. And I am naturally in harmony with you. And I think there's something there. And that as we reduce everything to little digital ones and zeros and we email them to each other, we lose something. And that's why gatherings like this are so important. So it's the topic of my talk that I was asked to give is how music saved my life. And it's only in the last few years that I've come to really appreciate that music truly did save my life. And I think if I hadn't discovered music, I don't know that I'd be dead now. I think my body would still be walking around, but I don't think I'd be nearly as connected to the life in me. I think I'd be kind of walking around with a whole part of me sort of back here in darkness that I had never discovered. So I thought I'd like to share 3 stories with you of when music, and specifically singing, shifted something in my life in a major way. So the first time I remember kind of everything changing because of music, I was about 10 years old. And I grew up in this small town in West Virginia. I had two older brothers. They were 9 and 13 years older than me. I was the surprise that came afterwards. And I was kind of the whiz kid in my community. So I wanted homework. My older brothers were doing homework. They'd give me math. They'd give me stuff to read. So by the time I got in the first grade, I could do math and I could read. And they discovered this organically. And so within about a month of entering school, they plopped me into the second grade. And I knew it was a really good thing. I was terrified. I was just trying to find my way. And I remember sitting in class going, vowels, they're talking about vowels. What the hell is a vowel? I don't know, but it's A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U. I better know that. I'll figure out what it means later. And it was like this, I went into this kind of hanging on, by the seat of my pants mode for a little while. But what the problem was that intellectually I was way ahead of all the kids my age, but emotionally I was way behind the kids my age. So I could be really smart and I could figure out the answers, but I couldn't talk to the other kids. I was the most awkward kid socially. I did not know how to be with the kids my age. I could not fit in. And so I struggled with that even as I couldn't wait to go to school. It was this big adventure. So I had these two things in me. I felt like there was something I couldn't figure out about how to be in this world. And when I was 10, I went away to Girl Scout camp in the mountains of West Virginia in Greenbrier County, which is my favorite part of the state. And I made a huge discovery. I had been taking piano lessons since I was 6. But I sat at a campfire and watched somebody play guitar and watched everybody sing, and I realized in a moment of clarity that you can bring a guitar to a campfire and you cannot bring a piano to a campfire. So this was a life-changing moment. So I came home, and I imagine it looked something like this. I want a guitar, I want a guitar, I want a guitar, I want a guitar, I want a guitar. And my parents, God bless them, bought me one for my birthday. And I discovered in that moment that if you could play guitar, everyone wanted to gather around, and everyone wanted to sing. And you didn't have to know how to be with them. And you didn't have to wear the right hip dress to the friend's birthday party. You didn't have to know what to say. People would just show up. And this guitar became the way that I found a way to be in the world with the part of me that would suddenly look up and say something completely impulsive, and the whole room would turn and look at me like I was a freak. When I had the guitar, everything changed, and I became the person who could not just create community for myself, but I could create community for each other, and I could do something that I could see people enjoyed so much. And it just became became the burning thing in my life. So after that, everything I could do that had to do with music, I was completely consumed by. I did community theater, I took dance classes, I did piano, I did guitar, I did church folk group, and children's theater and band in junior high and high school and choir, just anything where there was a group with music, I just couldn't get enough of. So this was a major shift in my life, and it gave me a parallel track that would save me later, because I was on track to be this brain, moving through the world, and this gave me a way of being in the world in a totally different way. So the second story I want to tell you happened in high school. And I'd gotten into choir, and I loved it, and it came easy to me, and so when in my junior and senior year, I auditioned and I made all-state choir. So this was my senior year, and this concert was in Huntington, which is the second largest city in West Virginia. And now it's about 45 minutes to Huntington on the interstate, but then it was about a 3 or 4 hour drive through the windy roads. And so this was a big trip for us, So I don't know how many of you have any background like this, but all these kids are rehearsing this music all over the state. They're the best kids in their choir in their high school. And then at the end of the year, you get to get out of school to go sing. Okay, that's the best, right? And then you get to all travel together, and then you get to just get out of class and do nothing but sing for 3 or 4 days. It was heaven. So this whole town gets taken over by the high school kids, who come in and take over every hotel. So we'd been singing all day. We had a couple days of rehearsal before the show, and we'd been singing all day long, and then we must have gone somewhere for dinner. And our group was staying in this little motel. And it was one of those old things. It was 2 stories high, and it was U-shaped, kind of square U-shaped, and it had balconies, and all the doors opened out. And so it was the evening, and here we are with kids from all over. And so we can't get enough of each other, so we're running back, I'm sure we've all stayed in hotels where there are high school choirs and high school kids. It's like, please don't put me on that floor. Well, we were on that floor. We had the whole hotel. So we're running back and forth, and we're kind of, getting to know each other and stuff. And it was this beautiful spring evening, and someone started singing. Someone walked out to the balcony and started singing. And then someone else came out and started singing, and someone else came out and started singing. And as more and more people started singing, the kids whose doors weren't open flung open their doors and came out until we all lined the balcony of this hotel, just singing at the top of our lungs these songs that we had spent a year learning and all day singing. And it was amazing. And I remember this guy pulled in the parking lot, and he opened his car door, and he got out, and he just went. He completely stopped in his tracks, and then we all just went, and we sang to him. And at the end, he went. And we were giving him this gift, and we knew it was a gift. And he was drinking it in. And at that moment, we were beautiful, and we knew it. And I think instinctively, we all knew that we all had these little bits of the same music in us that we'd been learning in individual little rooms all over the state, but there would only be this one little moment, this one opportunity we would have to raise our voices together and get to hear this thing that we had created. And we just couldn't get enough of it, so we just kept going into the night. We didn't need a conductor because we were singing for the sheer joy of it. And I have to tell you, I have absolutely no memory of the concert. And I can't remember any of the music. But I'm standing here 40 years later, and I can put myself back on that balcony right now. And it was for me a moment when the veil got pulled back. And we got, even if we couldn't put it into words and didn't really know what it was, we got a glimpse into something beyond this kind of regular life that we walk around in. And we got a picture of how music facilitates the experience of that larger connection, that deeper connection. And it was, for me, a sacred moment. And I love to tell the story because it puts me back there every time. I've also had people come to me and say, oh yeah, we did the same thing. We did the same thing when I was in Allstate. And I just think there's just so much joy in a young body at singing and getting facilitated in like moving to the highest level that you can and then experiencing that. That is just fleeting and rare and beautiful. So that's the second story. And the third story about a moment when music was earth-shattering, life-changing, is when I really got to see the power of singing as an ordinary and sacred act. So probably about 15 years ago now, my parents both got diagnosed with terminal illnesses within a month of each other. My mom got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My dad got diagnosed with cancer. Metastatic colon cancer had come back in his liver. So our family started a bit of a journey. And my dad took us through this process just wide freaking open, man. He just was amazing. And we got to have an amazing experience with him. And he lasted for about 3.5 years. And he finally died, and so at that point, I came home. I'd been coming home a lot, but I came home a lot more often because I wanted to help my mom stay glued to the world as long as she could, and I wanted to enjoy her while she still knew me. And I didn't live at home, so I couldn't stop by all the time. So I went home a lot. And this particular trip home, I had a bunch of friends from college who were having a big reunion. And these were the people that I formed my first band with. They were the first people I met who were as completely crazy eaten up about music as I was. First people I wrote my first song with. The first place where we started playing for fun and developed such a following, the police would just come and block off the street on a Friday evening. The keg that we had out might have had something to do with that, but it was WVU after all. Anyway, so this was the first time our band that we had formed in college was going to get together and play. And some friends had a farm up in Greenbrier County, and whole bunches of us were coming in to camp out and sing and play music and reconnect after all these years. So my mom's house was on the way, so I stopped to spend a few days with her first. And one of my friends had a young son who was getting into playing guitar, and so I had ordered for him a baby Taylor from the Taylor Company, and I had it sent to my mom's house. So I was there, and it came in the FedEx that day, and I thought, well, I should figure out if it got damaged or not in the shipping. So I opened the box and took it out, and I tuned it up, and I hit a chord, and my mother, like Pavlov's dog, looked up and went, Rita was 16 years, hazel eyes and chestnut hair. And I was absolutely dumbfounded because my mother, for my entire life, was tone deaf. She'd say, oh, honey, I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I just can't. And so she did not burst forth into spontaneous song. This was not the mom I knew. And so, you know, when she got Alzheimer's, she forgot that she couldn't sing. And so she started singing all the time. And there was this lovely caregiver named Nancy there, and she said, oh, honey, that's right, we've started this since you were here last time. You know, your mom gets sundowners. She gets real restless in the evening, and so when we're making dinner, we cook at the stove, and we put her at the kitchen table, and we put a boombox in the middle of the kitchen table, and we put your greatest hits CD in the boombox. And we sing and sing and sing. And so this was my mother's regular afternoon routine, and that was the first song on the CD, and by God, she was going into her thing. So I got my guitar that afternoon, and I got my real guitar out, and I tuned it up. And I sang all afternoon with my mom. I got my CD out, and we went through every title. And my mom sat across the room, and she just completely, was wide open. And there was a joy in her face that I never saw my whole life. She had had some tragedies happen to her when she was young, and you just never felt like she could step all the way into that open joy. And I saw it, and I got to experience it, and it was the first time in my life I ever sang with my mom. And I will just say, as an aside here, I really believe that singing is our birthright. I think that we were all born to sing. And if you look at any small children, that is very obvious. Kids sing and they sing and they sing and they sing. I have a friend who keeps sending me videos of her 3-year-old standing naked on the coffee table going, let it go! Let it go! And kids don't think about good or bad, they just sing because it's in us, you know? And then somewhere along the line, somebody either puts you in one of two categories. They either tell you you can sing or you can't sing. And if they tell you you can't sing, they squish something in you that's your birthright. I believe that. And I've met many people who have had that killed by somebody. And my mother had a husband who died young before my dad. And he was a high school band director. And she told me one time that he asked her to please not sing. So she wouldn't even sing Happy Birthday by the time I came along. But if she didn't know you were there, she sang all the time. So you'd come down the hallway when she was making dinner. If she didn't know you were there, you'd catch her. She kept the radio on all the time. She'd be standing in front of the counter going, Your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll. And she would dance like this while she was doing it. As soon as she knew you were there, she'd completely stop and she'd clam up. So this was the celebration of a lifetime of something that I did not think would ever happen. I mean, I just didn't even think it was within the realm of possibility. And I thought about the years that she got robbed, the years she could have been singing as a person who loved music so much. But I'll tell you that a year later, when she couldn't get out of bed, she couldn't make a sentence, and she didn't know me anymore, she could still sing all the verses to You Are My Sunshine with me. And so I would go and I would just sing. I'd just go sing with her. We'd do You Are My Sunshine, we'd do Amazing Grace. Over and over and over again. And that taught me something about music. It taught me where it lives in us, and that it's deeper than our ability to know ourselves, and our ability to know each other, and our ability to even understand ourselves as a separate human being. It's still there when everything else falls away. And so I was so grateful in that moment that at a young age, I had the courage or naivete or whatever it was to be able to go, you know, when I'm doing math and science, I can do it. But there's something that I feel when I'm doing music that I don't feel when I'm doing that other stuff. And what if I built my life on that instead of this other thing? And so I'm here to say music has saved my life, and I've sung my way through the tight places. That when life gets really, really hard, over the years, I've found that if I pick up my guitar and I start singing, it's like finding home base somehow. It's like finding my way home. It's always the way home. It's always the way home. And I think that gatherings like this, where we come to celebrate each other, we come to witness and listen to each other's music, and our musical processes are more important than ever, because music is more important than ever. So as we celebrate this week, we celebrate the sacred and the ordinary. Our gift, each one of us has, what we're contributing here to each other, what we're taking away, and we're celebrating what I think is our birthright. So I thought, by way of ending this little talk, it might be nice to get you guys singing that little song that I sang with my mom, since it has such an easy singable chorus. This is the technical bit where I switch microphones. Yeah. So Nancy Griffith wrote this song, and this song changed my life. And I've been singing it for decades and decades, the better part of 30 years. It's a very, very simple song, but it's like my favorite pair of jeans in song form, my best friend in song form. Rita was 16 years, hazel eyes and chestnut hair. She made the Woolworth counter shine. And Eddie was a sweet romancer and a darn good dancer. And they'd waltz the aisles of the five and dime. Eddie played the steel guitar. His mama cried because he played in the bars. He kept young Rita out late at night. So they married up in Abilene, lost a child in Tennessee. Oh, and still that love survived. 'Cause they'd sing, dance a little closer to me, dance a little closer now, dance a little closer tonight, dance a little closer to me, 'cause it's closing time and love's on sale tonight at this five and dime. Oh my God, you guys sound so beautiful. I usually have to prod and poke people to get them to sing, but not you guys. Your pumps are primed. You know who invented that term, don't you? I'm sorry. Now one of the boys in Eddie's band took a shine to Rita's hand. So Eddie ran off with the bassman's wife. Oh, but he was back by June, singing a different tune, and sporting Miss Rita back by his side. And he sang, dance a little closer to me, dance a little closer now, dance a little closer tonight, dance a little closer to me, 'cause it's closing time and love's on sale tonight at this 5 and dime. Eddie traveled with the barroom bands till arthritis took his hands, and now he sells insurance on the side. And Rita's got a house to keep, dime store, novels, and a love so sweet. They dance to radio late at night, and they sing, dance a little closer to me, dance a little closer now, dance a little closer tonight, dance a little closer to me, 'cause it's closing time and love's on sale tonight at this 5 and dime. Well, let's do one more. Dance a little closer to me, dance a little closer now, dance a little closer tonight, dance a little closer to me, 'cause it's closing time and love's on sale tonight at this 5 and dime. Oh, at this 5 and dime.